Welcome to a session on the novel titled The Wine of Astonishment. So, this will be a video that will be discussing the summary from the first chapter till the 10th chapter. So, you can see what happens in these 10 chapters in the video. So, chapter 1, it starts with B, the character B going to Evan Morton to see Evan Morton, and it is titled B Goes to See Evan Morton. So the readers, they are introduced to the narrator, who is Eva. Eva is B's wife and her husband B, along with three of their children named Joycey, Jem, and Reggie. So Eva, she is introduced to be a strong Christian woman, and she is ready to accept the fate as the decision of God. So whatever happens, she is the sort of a woman who thinks that it's all the decision of God. And Reggie, he has failed in the examination, and the couple debates whether or not to ask Evan Morton for help. And B is apprehensive of Evan Morton not being to help the community. So he says that it's been a long time since Evan has come into become a council member, but apparently he is not able to do anything for the community, and B is a little concerned over that. But Eva, she says that it's just been a few months since he came into the power, so let us give him some more time and we'll see what he is doing for the community. And it becomes apparent that the hope of the community, it rests on the politician's shoulder, that is Evan Morton. Now, in this chapter, you also see, all the people going to Evan Morton and trying to get help from him. But slowly we see the people in the novel, the other characters in the novel, they start seeing Evan Morton changing a little bit. And the reader in this chapter is introduced to the relationship between Joycey and Clyde, who is Evan's driver. And you also see Bolo's disappointment in the church's apathy, or the church's how the church is deteriorating. And even Morton and family, they move to a bigger house. So you see how Evan Morton represents the bourgeois, and he slowly gets better and better living styles. And this is the phrase used to describe Evan Morton, where he goes to the white, said that he goes to the white man's house. And the chapter, it ends with Reggie being placed in a high school after previously applying without his parents' education and knowledge. And this in a way concerns B, because he is going to get Western education, which might change him a little bit. And B is quite worried for the changes that would happen to Reggie. Which would turn him against his people and culture. And in chapter 2, which is titled The War Still Fighting, the American soldiers who come down to Trinidad to protect us from invasion. So what we see in this chapter is, there are many people, many foreigners. Being a post-colonial novel, you see many Western invasion into the place that they're in, and people are all quite, they have got this sense of awe and wonder when it comes to these colonizer setups of factories and other things, and people want to work in the American base and other things. And this chapter, it charts the changes in Boness and how it affects Bolo and Clem, two characters who were stick fighters. And Clem is one such character who finally realizes that we should go with the change, and we can't really go with the conventional means alone, but we should go ahead with the change. And he moves on. We can see this character Bolo, who's the other stick fighter, along with Clem, who's not ready to change, and he doesn't want much change to happen. And he's not ready to move on from his cultural setup, or his past. So one morning, Clem get up and he didn't want to stay in Boness again. So one thing that you see in this chapter is that Clem and Bolo, being stick fighters, they started taking part in carnivals and other things, but after a while they didn't have anything to do. So Bolo got frustrated, while Clem decided to move away from the place. Okay, and Bolo in this chapter, he decides to start visiting the church. The third chapter, it is titled We Church. And the church, throughout the novel, you can see how it plays a vital role and the pride that is felt about its existence and perseverance is expressed by Eva. So not even in, not anywhere you can see where these people are getting rid of their belief or their cultural system. And however, there is a law that get passed which makes the church illegal, thereby forcing the members of the plot to keep the church alive. And they are pictured in a bad light where they are called the savages, the people with no education. And finally, the plan by the church members, including B, who is a pastor, is that we will have a quiet way of worship without disturbing others. And other things that occur in the chapter are the tragic tale of Eulalie, even Bolo. So Bolo, he losing his temper and its tragic results. Okay, and even in between, he's turned into. We get to know that he's turned into Catholic to get admission in his school, and B, in this chapter, you see how he persuades other people to not have a war and adhere to the laws. And he says that our only point, our point should be to have someone in the council. So they all decide to support Ivan to be in the council. And in the end, B decides to break the law because he realizes that the church is dying. So that quiet way of belief system that they were following, he decides to break that. Now, the fourth chapter, which has been titled Break the Law, in this chapter, one important thing is that all the people are anticipating, Eva, the children, all of them are anticipating for B to break the law finally, because in the last chapter, he says that he would break the law. And finally, you see B actually breaking the law by being loud in his way of chanting and praying. And in chapter 5, which is titled Bolo and Prince. So here he breaks the law continuously until the church is raided and the word spreads. And, finally, there are people who get to know that the church, the Baptist church, is finally back to, their way of praying. They decide that many people decide to come back to the church, but everyone is dragged to the jail. But Bolo, he intercedes, and in between, on behalf of his mother, when his mother is also arrested, he gets in between and decides, finally he is also arrested, he is beaten and subsequently imprisoned. So here you can see the aspect of police violence. And no one actually stops Bolo from being arrested, including B. And this becomes a great, it later becomes, we see Bolo being quite aggressive towards the community because they never stood for him. Now, chapter 6, it is titled The Election. This chapter is all about the campaign trail and how diligently he works to get Ivan elected. So the reason for this is mainly why? Because he wanted someone from his community to be in the council. So that happens. They work really hard and gives a new hope for the community. And it ends, however, with Eva's observation of changes that Ivan makes in his life in accordance to his new position, as well as her views on the implications behind Ivan Morton's procurement of the house on the hill. So only that the community only sees Ivan growing financially more and more. And in chapter 7, you see Bolo returning from the jail where he was arrested. And, he is getting acquainted himself. And we see Ivan Morton moving to another bigger house, Richardson's house, and which is all the white men's house. And he is told that he could get things in his favor only if he joins a party, who Bolo. So the chapter ends with the destruction that he wrote on the drums in order. So he becomes this aggressive, as I mentioned, he becomes this aggressive character because he has got this hatred towards the community. Now, chapter 8, we see Bad John, and this chronicles Bolo's descent into a mode of destructive behavior. One, he gets a job as a watchman. Second, he extorts products from the market vendors, rum shop, and gambling shop, and he destroys Mitchell, the person who was working in the American base. He abuses women. He despises the people of Bonnes, and Bolo's fame, it extends outside Bonnes, and you also see the police being afraid of him. Chapter 9, which is titled The Calamity. So Joycey, the Dorcas's only daughter, she gets married to Clyde. and we see the ceremony. It is quite sad because they are not able to perform the ceremony in their own spiritual Baptist belief, but it is done in a very English way, and people are slowly losing trust in Evan Morton. And in between we see the calamity that happens, which is Bolo kidnapping Premises two daughters, Celestine and Muriel. Okay, and B and Primus, they try to convince Bolo, but he shows his long-standing grudge against him. He tries to challenge the men, challenge Bolo, since that is what he wants, but he barely succeeds. And the police intercede, and Bolo, as well as Primus's youngest daughter, gets killed in the gunfight between Bolo and the others. Chapter 10, we see, after these many years, we finally see the church coming back. So election time, and Ivan is on trial. We do not know that if he is elected, re-elected or not. But what is known is that the Shouter Baptists are finally legalized, and B gives his sermon in the church. So the irony at the end of the book, however, is that even on the cusp of their great victory, the spirit left the church. And B is concerned and dejected. Eva says, too late, it came too late. I should have never stopped worshipping. So, despite this tragedy, Eva hears it in the music that the boys play on the steel pan. So, even if they don't feel that sort of spirit coming while they were praying, uh, they feel some sort of spirituality or faith in the music that they hear. Okay, so that's how the chapter ends, and that is a summary from chapter 1 till chapter 10.